Hi guys, welcome to Farmer Fridays, where I get to interview agriculturists, ag organizations, and ag businesses across the state of West Virginia. My name is Elizabeth Lynch, your Miss West Virginia 2022. I'm really excited about today's interview and really excited to let you guys hear exactly what I heard and exactly the young woman that I fell in love with a couple months ago at the West Virginia Dairy Princess program. We have Helen McCarty, our current West Virginia Dairy Princess. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing really good. Thank you so much for agreeing to speak with me today. And I know that, a lot of people are going to be really interested into the things that you have to say. So I'm really excited to get started. All right, go ahead and tell me about yourself and your agricultural background.
Okay, so as you said, I'm Helen McCarty, and I'm 17, and I'm a senior at Kaiser High School. I think it probably would come to a surprise to many people, but I wasn't born on a farm. I wasn't born into agriculture. I was actually something that I fell in love with in the third grade when I started 4-H. So I know a lot of people in agriculture talk about 4-H and FFA, but it's really because it really just instills the love in many kids. So as I said, I'm in 4-H, but I'm also really active in FFA. In FFA, I have been an officer twice, where this year I'm actually serving as reporter. And I don't know if many people are involved or aware of FFA's kind of things we do, but I compete in things called CDEs, which are career development events. And the ones I'm in are meat evaluation, livestock judging, dairy judging, and then a competition kind of outside FFA, but it is a part of FFA, which is called Envirothon. So through FFA, I've also received my state degree, and in 4-H, I've received my charting pin, which are kind of like the highest level state award kind of things. And I'm currently working on my American degree and getting my all-star pin. And then my agriculture part of that is I've shown goats for 6 years at my county fair, and I've jackpotted within the states of West Virginia, Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Maryland. And then obviously, since I'm the dairy princess, I have actually shown Holsteins for 4 years, I believe. Yeah. So that's kind of how just some things I do. So
It's pretty cool because your background is very similar to mine. People are always very surprised when I tell them that I don't currently live on a farm, that I'm a first generation agriculturist, just as you are. So that's
yeah.
pretty cool. I love that connection that we have. So you kind of briefly mentioned it, but could you go into detail a little bit about how you actually got involved in in the dairy industry?
Yeah, so I got involved in the dairy industry because my uncle Bill Brook has a farm, and when I started having interest in showing livestock, he actually asked my pap, who was my escort for the dairy show, if he thought that I would be interested in showing a calf. He had an extra calf that he wanted to take down to the dairy show, and he thought it would just be just a great experience for me. And so when my pap asked me, I was like, of course I want to. I would love to. And so I started tagging along with them. Ended up loving working on the farm, and I loved working with the cows. And here I am about 4 or 5 years later, depending on how you count the years with COVID, and I'm the princess. So just,
Well, that's awesome. That's such a great way to get started.
yes.
Yeah, awesome. So I was very fortunate to be there the night that you were actually crowned. I was the MC for that evening, so I got to hear everybody's phenomenal speeches and your milk toasts, and I loved my experience there. So how did it feel to win your title?
It was just crazy. It was like the best feeling in the world. So I'm really proud of myself, and I just feel very honored to be able to represent not only just my state, but this lovely industry that I've kind of fallen in love with. And I'm just excited for the next year of what it has to come. I'm also just really thankful for the time that I got to spend, actually getting to talk to the girls that were also competing in the pageant during the events leading up to it. I'm just so just excited because the staff is great. And also I'm excited about getting to talk to the farmers and the people that I got to meet at the dairy show, I'm so excited that I get to represent them and hear their stories and then share their stories in kind of like in return. So it's just, it feels good all around.
You should definitely be proud of your accomplishment. And the other young ladies that you competed with are very smart, very well educated, and of course excited about being a part of the dairy industry. And I know you had just mentioned that you get the opportunity to talk to dairy farmers across West Virginia. Is that part of your job title and part of your duties?
Yes. So there's actually a lot that goes into being a dairy princess. It's not just a pageant like many people I've already unfortunately talked to that's what they think. They think it's, oh, I competed in a pageant in August, but I try to tell them like actually like I get to travel the whole state for the next year and not only just ride in parades, but I also get to set up this educational displays where I get to talk to the public. I get to talk to students within schools and different like extracurricular programs. And then I'm also going to try to do things like make a radio appearance and be in the newspaper and just to talk to people of all ages and backgrounds so I can just share what's so important to me about the dairy industry and hopefully shine a light on some of the good stuff we do, because I think we talked about it a little bit at the pageant, but a lot of times we don't hear the good. We hear a lot of negativity, and that isn't what the dairy industry is. There's a lot of care, there's a lot of compassion, and I want to bring that to light.
You are giving me goosebumps right now. I mean, one of the things that you and I both advocate for on top of our social impact initiative and our platform is, of course, breaking down the pageant stereotype and letting people know that we're spokespeople. We are responsible being that catalyst for change and making a difference in our social impact initiative. So I love that. I love your plans. I love what you're getting to do. Now, one of the parts of that is, of course, being able to speak to the dairy industry. So in your mind, what do you think is the most challenging thing that our dairy industries currently face in West Virginia or in America?
So I think when I really think about that, I think of two things really come to mind. And for me, that would be misinformation. And then just an overall, we've lost a lot of consumers. The dairy industry faces so much backlash and hate from people in the media, and maybe some people who have never even stepped foot on a farm of any type, whether it's a dairy industry or even just going out and looking at a farm or driving past a farm. They don't really know what's going on past that fence.
Right.
I just think if I really focus on telling people that like we don't mistreat our cattle, I hate hearing that, like, oh, dairy farmers mistreat their cattle, but it couldn't be farther from the truth. We spend all day literally focusing on their care and making their lives better, whether it's cleaning bedding or giving them fresh water or keeping fresh grain or feed in front of them at all times. I just think it's important that the people realize we don't do this because, it's for the money, but it's truly because, an unhappy cow or a mistreated cow, they don't produce for us. And in our industry, there's not a lot for a cow who doesn't produce well. So when we treat our cows good and they have fresh grain in front of them and they're happy and they're being treated well, they're going to produce for us. And also, I hate hearing, the things like, there's antibiotics in the milk. We try to keep our cows so healthy because we don't want to give them antibiotics, because when we give a cow antibiotics, unfortunately, all of their milk has to be dumped, all of it. And if that would somehow miss and go on a truck, then we have to pay for all the milk that's on that truck, not just our milk, but all the other farmers. So it's super important to us that we, don't get sick cows, because we don't want a mistake like that. So I think just sharing with people also then helps with the next part, which is just lack of consumers. I think a lot of people, you're always going to have the people who are diehard dairy fans, and you're always going to have the people who are, they don't see using animals as, for anything. They're supposed to be, they think they're just supposed to be pets, and, we're not supposed to milk them or anything. But it's the people in the middle that we really have to educate and inform and teach them, because it's the people who sway either way who is going to make or break how the industry is seen. We have to make sure that they're getting the good knowledge too, because if they see so much bad knowledge, they're going to go, well, I don't want to drink milk. I don't want to support that. But if they start hearing some of the good stuff through things like I do, or like what you do, which is shining the light on the good stuff that farmers are doing, hopefully we can sway some of those middle people into consuming our products, because ultimately that's how the world goes around.
You are a very well-spoken young lady, and I really do appreciate you taking the time to educate your community and your state on this information. I really do think that this information needs to get out there, and you are a great example of how to get that out there. So congratulations on that. Like, you're doing an amazing job. So I'm excited. I'm very excited to be talking with you right now. You're amazing. Now, my next question for you is, COVID-19 has affected a lot of parts of the agricultural industry, and we're actually still feeling those effects. How has it affected the dairy industry?
So I'd say some of the main ways that it's affected the dairy industry would be kind of like how it's affected most of the world. It's a loss of workers, and then also our products are becoming expensive in the grocery stores. And that's mostly to deal with gas prices, but as well as we're not using milk in restaurants. There was no milk being used in schools, and it made it really difficult to kind of sell our products because we didn't have a lot of consumption going on within our country because of the places that always used milk. We couldn't go. We couldn't go outside of our houses. We had to be quarantined. So it was difficult to get those people consuming the products that we make because we couldn't go outside. And then it just is expensive in the stores. So I think the hardest part was, you go to the store and you go, oh, I want to drink milk, but then it's almost double the price per the gallon. And that's just difficult because it's, what the way the gas prices are. And it makes it harder for the farmer because the farmer's not making any more money. If anything, we're probably making less money because we're also paying those increased gas prices. And so that's kind of the main way that I think it's affected us, is just we had a lack of consumers because of the places it was usually being, consumed. And then just we weren't making more money, but milk was increasing in price. So
right. Exactly. So knowing all of that, what can our community do to help dairy farms and dairy farmers?
So I think the main way that our communities can help is you just consume more dairy in your daily lives, especially milk. But even if, you're not the biggest on milk, eat a bowl of ice cream every night. I'm guilty of that. I mean, you can't go wrong with ice cream every night. I think talking to your farms, talking to your extension agents, and making sure that you're getting correct information. Just because you hear something in the news, don't always necessarily believe it. Talk to someone that is going to give you correct information. And then lastly, share the good information with people. Talk to people. If you hear someone talking about something and it's, you talk to your ag extension agent, or you talk to a farmer and you go, oh, I know what they're saying isn't wrong. Just say, hey, I actually talked to my extension agent, and that's, this is what actually happened. Because sometimes I think many of us know that the media always doesn't share the truth, or the whole truth at least. And that can kind of get people in a pickle. So I think if we get correct information, we share that information, and then ultimately just consume more dairy, I think that's just the best way that what our community can do on a smaller level. So
that's perfect advice. 3 great points that you just made. Now, the other thing that I wanted to talk about too is, in order to get your title, you had to get up on stage and you had to make a large speech. And that was, I'm sure, a little nerve-wracking. But what I thought was really important was the message that you provided. So you had to give a difference and a comparison between plant-based milk products and dairy milk products, correct?
Yes.
All right. Could you give me a little bit of a synopsis, something short and sweet about that speech?
Yeah. So the main part was, why would you want to drink plant-based milk products when you could have real cow milk, which has 13 essential nutrients, more than double the amount of nutrients than many plant-based milks have. I think when it came down to me, when I was doing my research, my favorite thing that I kind of learned was the comparison between margarine and butter. Many people think they're very similar, but they are very different from the point of view of a farmer or someone who is in food science. Butter is just a couple ingredients, and it takes, I can have a group of kids make it in about 5 minutes, 10 minutes while I'm teaching a lesson. However, margarine, you can't necessarily do that. Margarine is a very lengthy process, and it's got a lot of ingredients that aren't, just from a cow. And I think, that's something that's definitely to take into consideration. Milk also is just really good for you, and dairy in general. It has lots of health benefits, including like hypertension and cardiovascular disease, as well as type 2 diabetes. And it's also great for athletes just because of the amount of protein in milk. It genuinely helps your muscles restore, just significantly. And it's such a good overall thing to put into your body and to consume. And then lastly, dairy is so diverse. We have aisles of it in the store. That's how much it can be used for. If you don't necessarily like ice cream, or if you don't necessarily like butter, or, oh my goodness, milk, you can always eat ice cream or butter or cheese if you don't necessarily like it. Milk. I mean, I don't necessarily drink, 3 or 4 cups of milk a day, but I'm eating ice cream before bed. I'm putting cheese on my broccoli. I mean, I'm eating mozzarella sticks. Like, there's just so many ways that we can eat it and consume it. That doesn't mean just drinking a glass of milk every day. Right. And then lastly, the thing that I really tried to hone in on was the, that farmers were not like, hey, you have to drink milk. We understand if, you can't necessarily consume dairy products, that we so hardly, work and diligently produce, whether it's because you have allergies or personal belief or just religion. We just want you helping out and supporting local farmers and fellow farmers, because no matter what, we're a family bonded by agriculture, and that's something strong. It's stronger than any other bond that I've ever been a part of. I know that agriculture has welcomed me with many, welcome times and warm laughter, and it's one of the greatest things that's been in my life. And I think many farmers agree with that. So I think even if we're not drinking milk, if we're helping out fellow farmers, I think we can all agree that that's better than you not consuming any of our products. So
absolutely phenomenal message. Great job. Now, I wanted to ask, because you were in the position where you weren't born on a farm, your family doesn't, your personal immediate family doesn't raise cattle, but you've got people in your family that do. So you got involved in the dairy industry later in life. What advice would you give to somebody who wants to start working in the dairy industry that, might be in your similar situation?
So I'd just say mostly it's hard work, but it's rewarding. Seeing the people that we eating the products and enjoying the products that we work to produce and make possible, it definitely makes milking at 5 a.m. and going to bed way past 11 easier, when not only the cows need you, but also the people of America need you to put, healthy, sustainable food on their plate every morning or every evening. And I just think that's the most important part for us. And we're feeding America, and without us and without other people coming in and joining in, we're not going to have food to feed America. And without food, we're not doing much. So I think that's just the part that I think I realized, and why I wanted to be involved, is because our nation is ever growing, and we're ever getting larger and needing to feed more and more people. So if we're not coming up with smarter ways to feed the world, and we're not having more people wanting to do it, in a couple years down the road, we're going to have a large problem. So
I have 2 more questions for you. I know we're kind of running out of time. I want to make sure that you can get to your meeting after this. But I wanted to ask, what is one thing, if you could pick one thing that you would want to broadcast to your community or the state of West Virginia about the dairy industry, what would it be?
I think it's mostly just that behind every carton of milk or block of cheese is just a hardworking man or woman who has, a deep love for not only their cows, but their calves and the whole farm in general. a farmer who gives their all to their animals, and no matter if it's, raining or snowing or 100 degrees, or if they're sick, or if they're having a bad day, or they're busy, that not only applies to the dairy industry, but just all of agriculture in general. It's important that we try our best to shop local and just eat more of what we produce, because, if our farmers quit, then, like I kind of said before, we're not going to have food, and
Right.
And I know, at least me, I enjoy food, and I enjoy eating every day and not having to necessarily go out and work a job, from early hours of the night or the morning to late hours of the night. And I think a lot of times we take that privilege and that, that lack of not lack of responsibility, but that ease of just, oh, I can grab food out of the fridge, for comfort. We don't really necessarily think about that, hey, there's someone out here working really hard to feed me right now. And I think if we maybe step back and realize that, and appreciate our farmers, then I think we'll be doing good.
That is an excellent thing for people to think about every day. That's one of the messages that I try to present through my social impact initiative. So that is phenomenal. My last question for you is all about the FFA. You're heavily involved in FFA, and so was I. But the creed has always really stuck with me. And my favorite line is, I believe in the future of agriculture. So why do you believe in the future of agriculture?
So I think for me, I believe in the future of agriculture because it's provided me so many opportunities. But not only for me, but just for anyone who wants a job in it or has a passion for agriculture. The 4-H'er and FFA have both given me the moon and the stars and everything in between. And whatever I could dream of, people within those two organizations helped me achieve it. Just this year alone, I actually am going to be able to attend 2 different national events through these organizations. And agriculture and the hard work that I've put into it has truly, truly made that possible. And I think while being in agriculture classes the last 4 years of my life, I think the most important thing I've learned is that agriculture is everywhere. There's nothing in life that's possible without agriculture. And it's such a broad occupation field that literally, if someone wants to be in it, they're probably going to be in it, because it's just, there's so much you can do in it. And then I think lastly, I wanted to say something that one of my ag teachers has pounded into me, that if you're worried about being in agriculture, don't worry, because it's not just cows, sows, and plows. It's so much more than that.
Oh, goosebumps. Yes. Phenomenal. Well, Helen, thank you so much for agreeing to speak with me and share your message. I know that West Virginia definitely has to be proud because you're such a wonderful spokesperson, not just for the West Virginia dairy industry, but for the future of our agriculturists in our nation. So I thank you so much.
You're welcome. I enjoyed my time talking to you. And I hope that my message can just reach anyone who's willing to learn.
And Helen, if anybody wanted to follow your journey or potentially request that you come speak to a classroom or go and set up your educational exhibit at a fair and festival, how could they do that?
So I actually have a West Virginia Dairy Princess program page where I try to post all of my events on it and have lots of updates. But also, if anyone wanted to reach out to me, I'm just Helen May on Facebook. And if they reach out to me or the Dairy Princess program, I'd be more than willing to come speak to, a school, a 4-H group, an FFA program, anybody who wants me to come talk, I can do it. And I'd absolutely love to. So.
You guys heard it here. I will make sure that I tag Helen in this post so that you can just click right onto her page, follow her journey, and possibly request her to speak, because obviously she is a phenomenal speaker and she's got a lot of great information that anybody could benefit from. So that is the end of our Farmer Friday interview today. Thank you so much for listening, and tune in next week to figure out who our surprise guest will be. As always, please remember to thank your farmers.